there are some terminologies that we use, like the front end and the back end. Mostly on certain teams, you would have two kinds of developers: people front end, back end, and full stack. Full stack is front end and back end together as one person. Okay, what's a front end developer? Front end developer is just someone that works on the UI. UI, you had the designer explain what the UI was from the previous lesson, but just like how the website looks like, right? Colors, buttons. When you click it, something should happen. When you scroll, these elements should show, and this page should look like this. The designer draws something, and the front-end developer takes that markup from the designer and then begins to like code it with pixels and blocks and so on and so forth. So the backend is things that you can't see. It's how the things work, right? It holds the database, right? So that's why you can delete your Telegram account or any application on your phone. If you install it back, log in, all those data comes back. It was saved somewhere, so saved in the backend, right? Backend consists of a server and a database. Database holds all your information, all the data of a particular user of a particular application. Backend holds the logic and the data. I just said logic and data. I think every QA person should think your main goal should be making the project better, right? That's every time you're testing a new feature, you're thinking about how can I make the project better. You're not thinking about, oh, сейчас найду что-то, опа, partially. Yeah, you're thinking about, okay, I got this feature, right? Now, how can we make sure that this feature doesn't make the project, make it worse, but makes it better, right? So you're finding everything that can make that project go down. Как вам с английским? Wonderful. Okay, so Zhenya said that most of your bug reports have been in Russian, which is good. But if I'm going to be in your team and I'm going to be a developer in your team, you would have to write bug reports in English so that I would be able to understand the issue, the task, and so on. So knowing English and Russian is very important, right? So this is going to be like a practice lesson to kind of get you interested with listening in English, and maybe you would have to write some things in English, but you're not going to write anything. We're just going to have the lecture and so on. Okay. Today I'm going to be talking about the work between a designer and a developer in a particular team. I'm going to be speaking from the perspective of a team and how developers interact with like QA testers and some of my suggestions, and well, I'm going to give like a foundation about like development basically, and maybe some suggestions about like what's some things that developers expect from like QAs. Okay, so simple. My name is Best, right? It's not my nickname. It's my name. It's in my passport. Right? What's the meaning of Best? The meaning of Best in Russian. Perfect. Yeah. Oh, Pyaterski. Yes. I'm a full stack developer in OS system. Being in OS system for about almost up to 3 years now. And basically my main technologies are React and Node.js. I do some other technologies, but anyways, these are my GitHub and Twitter link. I know Ukrainians don't use Twitter so much. Well, some people don't use Twitter so much. But it's always cool to have Twitter on the slide. So anyways, I love working on pet projects. I have so many pet projects. This is one pet project as well that's interesting for me after work. So I use the pet project also to learn new technologies. Like, for example, there's this new technology, it's Svelte.js. No, not Svelte.js. It's a framework for web development like React. Maybe you've heard Angular. Maybe you've heard. Yes, for the web. Okay. And I love writing software that helps people. I don't like fixing bugs. Bugs is not interesting to me. It's not my. If I have lots of bugs and no features, I might be depressed all day. because maybe bugs are from some other person, right? That's cool. But for me, I like working on things that I know would help people. Very important features that can make people's life better. That's much interesting for me. But I have to fix bugs. They pay me, so I have to do it. Yes, anytime you write, there will be bugs. Thanks to you guys. So yeah. All right, let me say something very simple about front end and back end of web application. So you guys, for example, have been testing already. You've been trying out websites. You've been testing it. Everyone use websites. There are some terminologies that we use, like the front end and the back end. Mostly on certain teams, you would have two kind of developers: people front end, back end, and full stack. Full stack is front end and back end together as one person, right? Majority of us in OS system are full stacks. Yes, you might come in as a front end or a back end, but at the end of the day, you become a full stack because we love multitasking developers. Well, okay. I came to this company as a back-end developer, and I didn't know I knew something about front-end. Like, I went to Polytech, so Unpo, so I did computer science. It's not interesting, but anyways. And I learned front-end from there, as a subject. It was a very boring subject, but here it became very interesting. So once you're coming as a backend developer, you become a full stack developer. I guess when you're coming to as a QA manual, you become an automation QA. So it's like that progress, very important. Okay, what's a front end developer? Front end developer is just someone that works on the UI. UI, you had the designer explain what the UI was from the previous lesson, but just like how the website looks like, right? Colors, buttons. When you click it, something should happen. When you scroll, these elements should show, and this page should look like this. The designer draws something, and the front-end developer takes that markup from the designer and then begins to code it with pixels and blocks and so on and so forth, right? The front end consists of images, GIFs, right? Still images, videos, DOM elements. DOM elements are just you can see some small text, big text, right? Different. So there are different elements on the page. The structure of the UI as well, everything that has to do with the UI, basically, how it looks visually. And some of the major tools that are used on the front end are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right? HTML is mostly just for, let me just describe it this way. HTML is like your bone, your skeleton, right? Inside. CSS is like your muscles. What's muscles in Russian? Muscles. Cool. Yes. So HTML is like your bones, right? If I just see your bones and your skeleton, it's ugly, right? If I saw your muscles, it makes sense, right? You have muscles, everything looks cool, but you can't move. Let's say you just have muscles and bones, you're just standing straight. You can't do anything. JavaScript is when you begin to wave your hands, you begin to speak, you begin to dance, you begin to run. That's JavaScript. So the full interactivity of the website, right? HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So HTML is just for the structure, right? CSS is for styling. This color, this width, this height, spacing, padding, margin, CSS. JavaScript is animation. Well, you can do animations with CSS, but JavaScript is like when you click on this pop-up should open, right? When you type in an input, there should be a validation, right? The text should not be more than 5 symbols, or it should only be Russian characters, not English characters, or it should support Russian, English, and French. All those validations of inputs. When you click it, submit a form to somewhere, right? Everything is JavaScript, right? So when it comes to functionality, that's JavaScript. But the backend now is something that most people don't see. I should have added a screenshot. There are these wonderful memes that show like front end and the back end, where the front end is like the sexy stuff and the back end is like the scary stuff. So the things that you don't want to do, the ugly stuff, right? So for example, the project I work on the front end. and there are other backend developers, right? And our project this year was giving one of the awards in Times Magazine. I don't know if you've heard of Times Magazine. It's a very popular magazine in the US, like Forbes. Have you heard of Forbes? Yes, something like that. And they kind of put our UI and our websites in their magazine and said, our application is one of the most innovative websites in 2020 because of the pandemic, right? But in the screen, on the UI, on the page, they put a screenshot of our application, of our website. I'm the front-end developer, so it's like, I built the page, so I'm saying, о, ребята, вот, это я разрабатывал. Но там куча всего в бэкэнде, никто это не видит. Только видит то, что я разрабатывал. Вот.
Основное приложение на бэкэнде находится.
Но зато я, красота там оставил.
Визуальная часть.
Yes, so that's the thing. The front end is everything you see. The back end is, for example, how do you get emails? For example, a notification you get, somebody sends you a message, right, on Telegram, for example. That message goes somewhere, right? And then that message gets to your phone. Now, nobody sees where that message went to and how it came to your phone. It doesn't just go from phone to phone, no. It goes somewhere to a server, a backend, and the backend takes that message and sends it to the right user. So the backend is things that you can't see. It's how the things work, right? It holds the database, right? So that's why you can delete your Telegram account or any application on your phone. If you install it back, log in, all those data comes back. It was saved somewhere, so saved in the backend, right? Backend consists of a server and a database. Database holds all your information, all the data of a particular user of a particular application. Backend holds the logic and the data. I just said logic and data. If, for example, I want to send to all my users emails every day saying, oh, you didn't visit my application yesterday. Don't forget to visit my application, blah, blah, blah. Or maybe you get notifications from, how many of you use Facebook? Yeah, okay. Does Facebook send you lots of emails like your friend liked this, or today is your friend's birthday, congratulate, greet them and say happy birthday, right? All those things are not, it's not on the UI. Everything is coming from somewhere. There is a system that is kind of calculating all your notifications and sending it to you, right? So I don't see the notifications you see or you see, right? All of us see unique notifications, right? Or your homepage on YouTube is different from my homepage, right? But it's a server that's determining the difference for each one of us. Like that's the logic. Most of the hard work is done on the back end, okay? And some of the technologies that we use on the back end is Ruby, Python. I'm going to talk about it more. So on the front end, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are the fundamentals, the foundational technologies. Then we have things like jQuery, React, Angular, Vue, Svelte. These are like frameworks on top of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Just to make it very easy for us to build like front-end applications, we have frameworks. A framework is like, instead of writing all your website from the scratch, like from zero, frameworks kind of give you files and folders already made and structure of your application and makes it easy for you to start building web apps. That's the difference between a framework and just HTML and just the programming language. Right? HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are languages, but React is not a language. It's just a framework that combines all of them and puts it in one place and makes it very easy for you to start your application. Right? Gives you very, very wonderful features. And same thing with backend. Right? Node.js is an example of a backend. PHP, Java, Ruby, .NET, and Python. One of the questions every developer used to ask, especially if you're starting as a junior developer, you're asking, oh my God, there's so many technologies. Which one should I learn? That's the hard part. Everyone asks that question all the time. Which backend technology? Oh, Node.js is popular today. Let me learn it. Oh, tomorrow, wonderful tutorials in Java. Let me try Java. Oh, Java is too slow on my computer. Let me try PHP. It's popular. WordPress, tutorials, lots of them on YouTube, right? And one of the advices that senior developers will just tell you is just pick one. Just pick one, right? It's the same thing as saying you have so many clothes. How did you pick this one? You just picked one. Well, the clean one, the one that you liked, right? But you just picked one. It's almost similar, right? And all of them, you would then ask yourself, why do we have so many languages or technologies and they're doing the same thing, backend? Why do we have Node.js, PHP, Java, Ruby? Why do we have all these things? Why are they, like, they're all backend technologies? Why are there so many? Now, there are so many. There are more than this. These are just some of the popular ones. There's also Golang and so on for backend and frontend. So many. But it comes down to the same thing, like food, right? You have different kinds of food. You have different kinds of kasha, right? In Ukraine, you have so many different kinds of kasha, right? Why? Right? Because each one of them have different nutrients. Something is unique about each one of them. It's the same thing with like backend technologies. If you wanted something for very fast social networks, so many stuff, then you pick something like Node.js, like PHP. If you wanted something like a very big service for banks, oh, Node.js is not a good option. That's this first one. It's not a good option. This is not good. This is perfect. Java. Oh my God, Java is the king for this. Very big softwares for banks, governments, and so on, right? Python, if you wanted to do things like AI, maybe you add AI machine learning, right? AI, why? Because Python has many libraries. People have already built lots of libraries for machine learning and artificial intelligence in Python. So Python is the perfect language for AI, but it's still backend. You can do AI and machine learning with Node.js, but it's not exactly, you won't get all the things that, all the tools that you need, right? So for backend also, for each project, right? Again, I'm just explaining this to you. You might never need this, like never, but just for you to understand that in a project, well, it doesn't really matter to you as a QA what language is used on the backend, right? It's not your job to care about what language was used. Your job is to make sure that the backend works well. It works exactly as it's written in the specifications, right? As the customer wants it, or as the project manager said it should work that way, right? But understanding that there are different kind of technologies kind of helps you to understand, okay, in every project, there are always going to be unique technologies that are used. In our company, we use lots of Node.js and PHP on the back end. On the front end, we use lots of React.js. We're beginning to use also Angular. We used to use Vue.js, but like few projects we use Vue.js. We have lots of projects with React, and we have new projects with Angular. When you're testing also for the front end, you don't really care about what framework was used, right? But as developers, it's important when we are deciding, like we look at the project and we say, okay, this technology would be good for this application, okay? Now, I want to talk about some developer mistakes, right? Some mistakes that developers make that you guys, well, QAs always catch, right? I would explain something later, but let me give you a practical example. This is a bug that was assigned to me last week or last 2 weeks. So I just decided to put it here. So in the task, can you see that very well in the screenshot? Okay, yeah, it looks cool. So on the left-hand side here, on the left-hand side, okay, I'll just explain. On the left-hand side, this is what was written in the task. The task is this. When the user clicks download PDF, you should see this box, right, with all the list of items and all these things positioned right place. The designer designed it, everything looked fine, right? The developer saw it, okay, exactly like this. The developer took the data, right? Only two items, 2 rows, right? Developer wrote it, it worked very well. Now the QA is testing, and the QA begins to use more than 2 data. The QA used 10 and 50, and then you see on the second slide, opa, back 5 yourself, right? So you see that the design is broken. right? It doesn't move to the next page very well. If I keep showing, if I scroll down on the right hand side, you'll see lots of other things, right? Because I would explain why this happens, but it's kind of when the developer mostly sees a UI, it tries to build exactly what's in the UI, but doesn't think of other edge cases. That's why number 1 point is edge cases. UIs are supposed to validate edge cases, right? Edge cases are things that you would not think of normally. It's not the default way you think it should behave. And there's this thing Jenny used to say, you have to put yourself in the shoes of the user, right? You have to think like a user. You almost have to think as though you don't know how the app works. And then you begin to use it. The problem with the developer is the developer knows the app. He builds the app, so he knows how it works. So he tries to stay in the safe zone so that nothing breaks, right? But your job is to stay in the other side of the app to make sure everything breaks, right? You're kind of trying to say, okay, let's find all the things that would make the app break. But the developer doesn't really think like that, because the developer is like, "Фу, ой, нет, не знаю. Я сделаю задачу, все, на следующую задачу попаду," right? Well, that's not right, but it's like by default, okay? Most developers are not trained mostly to look at edge cases. And these are common bugs that you can find. You use more data, you use more text, you use more than what is written in the specifications of the task. You try lots of things. That's your job, right? Another common thing is, like, for example, when it comes to buttons, right? For example, you click a button, send some data, right? Show loading, and you close the page, for example, or go to a different page, right? Simple logic. The developer will take that website, click it. When you click the button, it sends the data, right? Moves to the next page. That's fine, right? The developer tells you, click it, it sends the data, it came back, redirect to a different page. Everything worked fine. Then the QA comes, and the QA says, I'm going to click 100 times. And then open back появился, right? So the developer is not thinking, no, the developer is thinking, ну, обычный пользователь не нажимает же больше, чем один раз. Они же один раз нажимают. Вот. And the developer clicks once, он отправился, лодер появился, обратно, все ок. Да, assign задачу на Саша, на Женя, давай протестируй, все ок, я закончил, следующий таск. И Женя открывает, and he begins to click, and you're, опа, не сломай. Yes, so it's one of the mistakes of developers. They're not thinking of extra something extra, right? So it's when you become an experienced developer, every time you work on a task, you kind of now begin to think of something extra, right? What happens if you click once, click twice with certain ports? What happens when you click multiple times? What happens when you click and the internet goes out, right? What happens when you click and clear cache? Sorry, and so on and so forth. Look, all these edge cases, it's the task of the developer to actually do this, but most developers don't do it because most developers are not trained to think in form of for test development, right? It's not good, but it's what actually happens. So it's another thing is most developers don't test cross browsers. That's for front end. If you're testing front end applications, most of them don't check other browsers that are supported. Mozilla, Firefox. They're just testing Chrome, running Chrome. Все работает. Oh, на тебе. And then you open Safari. Опа, ничего не работает. Right? Nothing is working. And the developer is like, ой, и Safari тоже. So yes, the developer might not check like other browsers to see, and the developer might not check screen sizes. Well, this one, most developers try to do it. Right? It's especially if you're in front end, you try to make sure that for all screen sizes, everything works well. One thing I wanted to add to, maybe the designer said it, but I don't I didn't hear it. I was on headphones, so maybe he said it. I'll just repeat it. Most times, I notice in some of our projects, we had this case where the designer changed something in the design. The developer, for example, the designer made one design, they created a task, assigned it to the developer. The developer worked on the task, finished the task, assigned it to the QA. Then the designer decided, or the designer had a meeting with the PM and changed the design, updated some colors, some pixels, and assigned it to the QA. And the QA begins to say, shut it here. And ще не совпадают. And нет, так не было. And all this confusion begins. And the designer comes and says, ой, я вчера его изменил, вот, извините, ребят. Right, that happens. We try to avoid those kind of issues, but what happens in teams, right? You have to make sure that in a team that the designer tells everyone when something is being changed. The QA should know, and so if anything changes in the markup in the design, you should know, right? The developer should also know. So it's also a kind of common problem in a team, but you might also face that issue. Different user behaviors, like I said, multiple clicks and so on. One of the common bugs is simple text, like spelling. Spelling can be wrong. And developers also might not check for spelling. Why? Now, to the quotes that's here. Developers, the average developers focus on the feature and not the whole flow. Most developers are focused on the feature of how it should work and not the edge cases and other things of the whole application. How does it work with the whole application? Most developers just focus on, this is this feature I should implement. I implement this feature and that's all. But your job is to take that feature and say, how does it connect to the whole application? Does it break anything else? Because a new feature can break something else in a different place of the application. So you have to make sure that it doesn't break any part of the other parts of the application, right? I wanted you guys to pay attention. Do you see any bug on this page? Like you're QA, so I just wanted to test it. What do you think? Do you see any bug on this page? What bug can you find on this page? Since you're QA, so let me see, like, you guys are doing very well. What do you think? Is there any bug on this page? Or everything looks fine? Any ideas, any suggestions? Just say anything that comes to your mind, anything. Anything. You don't have to think, is it the correct answer or not? I would be the one to tell you if it's the correct answer. But if you have any idea, just say it. Okay, what spelling bug? Okay, you have to have an idea. Okay, cool. Good suggestion, but it's not spelling bug. Anyone, anything, just say it.
It's just about red color.
Exactly, correct. That's it. I wanted to pay attention to the fact that both of them should be the same red. But these two are different reds. Right? This feature is a dark red and this is a light red. But it's wrong, right? They should be consistent because I wanted to pay attention, like compare two words. Yes, it's important, especially when it comes to UI and it comes to like the eyes of people when they're reading. The goal of the color was to pay your attention to something, right? I said feature and whole flow. They're two keywords. Developers focus on feature and they don't focus on the whole flow, the whole application, right? So the colors are different. So yeah, that's it. Don't worry, this is the only test I'm giving you. There's no other bug in this page. Or maybe if you find something else, what do you think? What do you think? I don't have any other bug, but maybe like QA, that's, you guys find bugs that developers don't find. So is there any other thing? Maybe anybody has any suggestion? What do you think? What do you think could be a mistake? Maybe I didn't plan it, right? This, I planned it, right? What do you think could be a mistake on this page? Spacing, maybe, or what do you think? Sorry, you can't check the screen size, so don't worry. I want everybody to say something. Everybody should say something. Yeah, semicolon. Cool. That's a good suggestion. That's a cool suggestion. That's a cool suggestion.
It's some free place in the right side of the screen is it's not very good for experience.
So what do you think should be there? What do you think should be there?
Maybe some picture.
Some picture. Cool. Good point. Okay. Okay. Too much spacing. Okay.
I don't know, I think pushing browser and screen size, there is a lot of space. I guess not.
No, it's because the S is big. So it's kind of like it looks as though only the S is close, but everything else is small. But that's a good perspective. Yes, that's a good perspective. So we have two more people to say something.
Да, там точка.
Developer mistakes. Заголовок страницы. Как еще можно распознать?
Exactly in the center, right? Cool. That's a good suggestion. That's a good suggestion. Okay, I wanted to say something.
Просто там вон красная девушка, точка туда. Да?
Exactly. Cool. That's good. That's good. That's a good suggestion. Yes. That's a good suggestion. Thank you. Okay. I just have only 2 suggestions on a great QA. Like, maybe some suggestions, some things I think that if you have this characteristics, it would be very good as a QA when you're working with developers. I think every QA person should think your main goal should be making the project better, right? That's every time you're testing a new feature, you're thinking about how can I make the project better. You're not thinking about, oh, сейчас найду что-то, опа, пошли. Yeah, you're thinking about, okay, I got this feature, right? Now, how can we make sure that this feature doesn't make the project, make it worse, but makes it better, right? So you're finding everything that can make that project go down. Anything that would make that project. Now, you know that last week or so, I think, last week, majority of all Google servers went down, right? Everybody heard about it. Maybe somebody committed a code and pushed to production, запустил новые изменения, и кто-то не нашел его. И все просто, опа, тестировщик какой-то пропустил, right? And it affected millions of users all around. Maybe Google lost millions of dollars, billions of dollars, right? So your goal is to make sure, I want to find anything that would affect our project when we deploy it to users, right? Users should not complain. It's my responsibility to make sure that the project is fully ready for our users, right? So every time you're testing something, you have this at the back of your mind and you say, every bug is to improve the task. You should make sure you fix it. You're asking yourself, when you assign a task, when you assign a bug, right, to the user, to the developer, you should be asking yourself, is this bug making the project better, or I just want to show my QA skills, right? Because that's also possible, right? But in that perspective, your relationship with the developer will be different, right? If you have the perspective of, it takes me to my next point. Your goal is not to blame the developer. Nobody likes blame, right? Especially junior developers. It's hard because they're also learning, and you're coming and saying, "Oh, плохой, нашел ты, ой, опа, yeah, right?" So and that developer will not feel right? Developer would find it hard to interact with you. Your goal is not to have enemies on the team. Your goal is not to say, you did bad. Why did you do bad? Right? Your goal is to say, okay, we found this problem. Let's fix the problem. I don't care who made the mistake, right? I don't care whose bug it is. Don't tell, most times in our project, when there is a bug, everybody's saying, а кто это делал? как будто это важно. Right? Да, okay, we can say maybe the person needs to improve, or maybe so that the person doesn't make the mistake again. But anyways, that should be for the team lead. The team lead should be the one to find that person and maybe suggest something to improve that developer, and maybe have meetings with that developer and say, okay, you should fix this, you should improve in this. But your job is not to find who did it wrong or who did it right. Your job is to find the problem, and we have to get the problem fixed. I don't care if you can't do it. Like a developer can come and say, oh, это невозможно делать, это очень сложно. Ну, это не то, что написано в задаче. Так, ну, мне все равно, кто это сделает. Важно, чтобы он был сделан. Right? So you're not really, so when you think like that, you would be able to work with the developers very easily, because you're coming with, this is a bug, we need to fix it, right? We need to fix it. How can we fix it? Most times you'll be speaking with your project manager, right? You assign tasks to project manager. Your project manager says, okay, this is the task we should work on. This is a bug we should work on. This is not a bug we should work on. But anyways, most times, let me see, do I have another slide? Okay. Most times developers will come to you for you to explain an issue, right? Developers will come to you, maybe they didn't understand something in the issue, right? If a developer comes to you to ask you about a bug, then you didn't explain it well enough. Понятно? Right? So that's to my next point, bug report. If you have to explain the second time, after you spent 15 minutes, 30 minutes composing the best bug report, you sat down, you put everything, you wrote, you typed, you kept typing. The developer comes, reads it, что? Где это находится? Where is this, right? But if the developer comes to you, now, it doesn't mean people will not come to you. Maybe a person comes to you because the person doesn't really want to read what you wrote, right? It doesn't mean you didn't write the bug report, but majority of the times, if every single time you assign a task, that person has to come to you to ask you what you meant in the task, then you didn't explain the task well in your bug report, right? So some of the things that are very helpful to developers, these are some of the things I just put in the suggestions, right? Some things that are very helpful when writing a bug report. I'm sure like Jenny has taken you through all of them, but I just want to like mention things that for me as a developer, when I see them in a task, it's very good, very, very helpful. I like to see the steps to reproduce, very clear. Steps to reproduce, bold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, step 2, don't put story, right? Just say, we go to this page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's clear. I didn't add this here, but the title is very important. I didn't add it here. I should add it, but title is very important. You should think of a summarized title. Is anybody a YouTuber here? YouTuber? No? Nobody? Okay. If you're a YouTuber, there are two things that are very important. Well, yeah, your content is very important. Two things are important to get people to watch your video. First thing is your thumbnail. Thumbnail is that picture that you put. That's very important. It's one of, based on research, it's one of the things that drives clicks to your videos. The second thing is your title. How somebody should be able to read your title and understand what you want to say in the whole video, and then is motivated to click it, right? That's not related to bug reports, but the point I wanted to make is that your title in your bug report should be very clear to the user, to the developer. When the developer reads it, the developer has an idea of where. So for example, a very bad title is very, very bad. Что-то сломался на фронте. Это вообще кошмар. Что-то сломался. Что такое? Давай на бэклог. Не на меня, сай на кого-то. Так. Я ничего не сломал. Чего еще? Right? A perfect title is to say, put in the bracket, for example, front end. Okay, это уже очевидно. Окей, front-end. На странице такое. Нажая на это, показывается эта ошибка. О! Да, я работал на этой странице. Окей, да, это может быть, да. Да, забыл это убрать. Вот. So, like, from reading the title, I can already begin to get a sense of what you're trying to tell me in the task, right? Most times, like, if you assign the developer a bug report, they didn't work on that task. Maybe somebody made that bug, or that bug has been existing. But from the title, developers should have a sense of what, not just, short titles are very bad, always very bad. Right. Okay. The second thing that should be in the task is the result. When you reproduce, that's the bug, right? So when I click this, I get this error. Current result error. Okay, error. Okay. The next step, you should tell me the no, I made a mistake.
Что?
Okay, yes.
It's first time actual result, then
Expected result. Exactly, perfect. Yes. So you should see, I should come and see actual results. And the next thing I should see expected results, right? I want to know, because the developer is thinking actual results. No, так и должно быть. But then when you write expected result, the developer begins to think, но мне никто так не сказал. No, because this is a bug report, right? This is not a feature, right? Now we're talking about a bug report. So developer is saying, no, ТЗ так не написано и так далее. So you can begin to know, okay, no, this. And the developer might go to the PM and say, no, but you said something else. Like in my initial task, you wrote, when I click this button, it should download this file, PDF. But in the bug report, it says that, like, I download PDF, but the bug report expects maybe PDF, maybe text, maybe something else, and says, oh, it doesn't download other types of file. It only downloads PDF, right? So you have to clarify those things. But actually, expected results is very important, so that when I finish the bug, if I see that exact expected result, I know I've done the task. So expected result is very important. Now, two very important things are screenshot with arrows, right? Screenshot arrows, стрелки. Very important. Arrows are like killer feature. Just amazing. It's very good with that. It's very important. You can't say на этой странице текст неправильно сформирован. Ну, тут куча текстов. QA, тут куча текстов. Где именно? Right? And in the task, you will put the screenshot of the page. Кому это надо? Просто скриншот сайта. Like there should be, okay, this is the arrow, this is the paste, this is the text that was wrong. So the developer immediately says that, oh, this is where the error is. So I know that, okay, I should fix this place and nowhere else. Right? So it's very important screenshot. Another very important thing is video. But maybe you might not need to make video every time. Video, I mean like screencast. So you're sharing your screen and you're reproducing the error. That's even the fastest way to like show and like submit a task, a bug report to a developer. So you begin like, so the developer sees exactly the things that you clicked, right? And the developer watch the video. Many times, video has been very helpful for me. So when I'm watching a video and I see all the screenshots and I see all the steps, I'm like, oh, how did you find that? Right? How did you find that? So making those kind of videos are very important because it helps the developer to be able to see exactly what you see, right? Because you can write text, but text, the developer is trying to make a picture in his mind. But this is mostly like with front end. When it comes to back-end stuff, it's mostly the data is not correct, right? Or maybe some data that you're expecting JSON, you get a different type of format back from the API, from the database, from the server. So yeah, that is more of like screenshots. Those are perfect, like screenshots. But when it comes to steps you want to show, videos are always perfect because you don't need to argue, right? Because sometimes you can see the steps and say, But Zhenya, I don't see the specific step, right? You wrote step 4, but I don't see the step 4. But if you have a video, you can say, you can just watch exactly what he clicked and just go through it. I think that's the end. That's all. Thank you.